Hey everyone, this is Jeff Risdon from the Detroit Lions podcast and Lions Wire coming at you. I'm scrambling a little bit today. Had a lot going on. I've been at Lions minicamp for the last 2 days. I'm recording this Thursday evening. I thought I'd go over some of the guys who impressed me and some of the things that I saw in the last 2 days of Lions minicamp. So let's go. All right, I apologize for the setting and the interesting audio here. I have to do this. Had a bit of a family situation come up that has required me to travel without my microphone and camera. So we're doing this just straight off the laptop. So my apologies if the quality isn't great, but it is what it is, and I kind of had to get this done now before I depart for a little bit. Unfortunately, all's well, but just a trying time. Um, wasn't that trying for the Lions? I will say that. This was a good 2 days of minicamp. I was not there on Tuesday. Could not make that day, but Wednesday and Thursday I was there, and it's a fun team. First takeaway: this is a fun group to be around, and I think Derek Barnes said it really well in his press conference after Wednesday's practice. We know how to have fun. We know how to enjoy ourselves. We know how to you know play off one another, but they also know how to get serious. And that's one of the things that does stand out. And something that Dan Campbell stresses, Aaron Glenn stresses a lot in his coaching style. You see it from guys like Scotty Montgomery, Ben Johnson, Kelvin Shepard. Terrell Williams does that too. There's a lot of, we're going to get our work done and we're serious when we're in between the lines. But when we're outside the lines, we're going to have a little bit of fun. And I think that's a good way to go about the team. We have seen in Lions past when coaches don't want the players to have a lot of fun, and it doesn't work. And I have been in other organizations that have coaches that want too much fun, and that doesn't work either. I think this group from I've been covering. This is my if you factor in the teams that I've covered, this is the 14th NFL team that I've covered. This is the best team that I have covered at this point, and I will also say that it's just got the feel, man, of they're doing things right, and they know they're doing it right, and there's a confidence with that, and there's a little bit of a swagger with it, but it's not enough of a swagger that it makes them cocky. If you kind of know where that line is, I've sort of found where that line is in my experiences, and I'm really pleased with where this team's at. So let's talk about a couple of guys that really impressed. Going to start off the notes that I didn't actually write up much on him on Wednesday, and it will be in the Thursday notes, which I haven't written yet. Terrion Arnold, first round pick. Guys, he looks like a first round pick. He plays and carries himself in the way that you want your franchise cornerback, an island outside corner, to carry himself. He's cocky, but he's not overly that way. He's very confident. It's a lot like Darius Slay. He reminds me quite a bit of Darius Slay in Darius's second season, not necessarily his first, because as a rookie, he was swimming. To borrow from Dan Campbell's expression that he talked about, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Terrion he looks really ready. There's some things he's got to clean up. He still holds a little bit on the releases. Still gets a little grabby in his press, but I know that there's some consternation out there that he's Jeff Okudah 2.0 just because he's a first round Lions cornerback, and fans get that way. I will tell you, I liked Jeff Okudah a lot coming out of Ohio State, and one of the things that didn't work for him was that he didn't. How do I say this to be fair to him? Because he clearly wanted to get better and improve his game, but I'm not sure he knew how. I think Terrion has a really good understanding of how he needs to get better and is working very actively at it. And he's not above asking teammates or coaches to help him out with that. And that's something that I really struck me. I got to talk with him a little bit after practice today on Thursday, and just comes across as a guy who's really like excited, ready, going to be really good right away. I feel really really good about the pick after seeing him handling himself in man coverage, taking some chances, breaking up some passes. He has such a click and close burst that it's a lot of fun to watch him, man. He's good. He's gonna relish the challenge of going up against the Justin Jeffersons and the Romeo Dubs and the Christian Watsons and whoever in the world the Bears have a wide receiver, Roma Dunzi. That's actually going to be a really good matchup because I think Dunzi's going to be really good too. I'm very happy with Terrion Arnold where his progress is. He is further ahead and being ready to play than I expected him to be at this point, and that is something that I feel very happy about. So that was good. It's not perfect. There's still work to be done, but he's looking really good. Another guy who really impressed, and this is one I talked about him last week after the minicamp, and Jamison Williams is always going to have a but with him because it's I'm convinced of it, and talking to some of the other guys who cover the team, who are there every day, in and out. I unfortunately only get over there primarily during the off season and about once or twice a week during the regular season. So the guys who are there 3, 4, 5 and going to games and everything. He's really good when he's really good. And we saw a lot of that with Jamison Williams this week with JMO. He has shown an ability to adjust to a ball in the air and make a contested catch. I think the Lions actually tweeted out the video of that one that he got over Carlton Davis. That was a phenomenal catch that every single one of us in the media was like, he does not make that catch last year. So there's growth. His route running is better. Specifically, there was a route. He ran a comeback route, and footwork was perfect. Sold the deep route well, and dug back in nicely. But there's the but. Goff rifled the ball in and hit his shoulder pads. Flew back like 5 yards. Probably would have gotten picked off if an offensive lineman or a linebacker had turned around defensive lineman, but they didn't expect it. And there's definitely some hands issues with JMO, and I know it frustrates him because there was a pass today. He dropped a touchdown in the end zone where he had absolutely scorched Iffy in coverage on a route coming across the field. Nobody can run with this guy and they are running him more on cross field routes and things like that to get him in the open and take advantage of his speed and hit shots down the field. And this one, Jared Goff put it up there, money throw, hit him in the two hands, hit the ground. J-Mo went down, angry, upset with himself, slammed the ground. A couple guys came over and tried to pick him up, and I like that he was upset with himself because that's a ball that he needs to catch. That's a ball that we need him to catch. But that's sort of the theme is that there's going to be the but with J-Mo. But sorry, that was cheesy. There's definite growth. He's a better receiver now than he was the last time I saw him last year. He's a better receiver today than he was last Thursday when I watched him at OTAs. So arrow is definitely pointing up, but I'm gonna say that there's always gonna be a little bit of trepidation when the ball goes up in the air, whether or not he's going to catch it. I feel more confident than I did even last week, but there's still times where he's struggling to look the ball all the way in and secure the catch. And I think that's just kind of who he's going to be as a receiver. You take the good, you take the bad with that. Calvin Johnson led the NFL in drops while he was an active player. He led the league in drops 3 times in 6 seasons. Doesn't mean that he wasn't a fantastic receiver and that he didn't have a tremendous impact on the game. I'm not saying that J-Mo is going to have that level of impact, but I am saying that he will make enough plays that it overcomes the bad ones where he messes it up. And I will say, in terms of route running on plays where he's not the intended target, on his spacing, on his attention to detail, it's better. It's noticeable. It's noticeably better than it was last year. And again, I think I saw growth from last week to today and over the last couple of days. So I came away pretty happy with what I saw from JMO. Again, could it be better? Yes, it could. But I think that's kind of emblematic of a young player that hasn't really had a lot of time to be just himself as a football player, dealing with injuries and gambling suspension. And there's always something going on there. But I feel pretty good about what I saw from JMO. Talk about Goff and Hooker real quick. Goff didn't have a great day on Wednesday, quite frankly. He threw some balls that were a little bit low, a little bit behind where they needed to be. I don't know whether it was just a timing issue, whether he was just not feeling it on that day, but it wasn't his best day. Thought he had a better day today on Thursday, and it was specifically in a couple of plays. They did a clock management drill today on Thursday. Sorry, I've had a long week, folks. Bear with me. Um, they ran a drill where they had 2 minutes to make up two scores, and he ran the drill and was very effective with it. His receivers didn't always help him out as much as they wanted to. JMO, the aforementioned drop, there was another one where he threw it, and the receiver didn't necessarily understand that it was coming to him. So that was, it could have been better, but I thought that his delivery was good. Thought that he bought himself a little bit of time against the pass rush. So it was impressive overall. There's no worries there. He's doing just fine. It's the ebbs and flows of being in a mini camp with different receivers rolling in and out, getting snaps from a different guy. Frank Ragnow didn't practice today. He was taking snaps from somebody else. They weren't always perfect. Like, there's a lot of little things going on with that. Let's talk about Hooker. Hendon Hooker. So I talked about him last week after the OTAs, and I was generally impressed with what I saw, with the caveat that I wanted to see that as a baseline. And from what I saw from last week through this week, I'm a little more concerned than I was. The accuracy it isn't reliable yet. And I'll reflect back on it. He said it himself. When he doesn't think, when he just plays, he's damn good, man. Real good. I compare him to a better version of Daniel Jones. That's kind of who he reminds me of. And I know that Daniel Jones gets crapped on a lot, but the guy did earn a whopping paycheck from the Giants and had some pretty good success as a runner and as a thrower, working behind an offensive line that Lions fans would find embarrassing, and with a receiving core that, quite frankly, Lions fans would find embarrassing too. So that's my working poor man's comp for him right now. But yeah, when he's like on the instinct, the ball comes out nice. His footwork is good. He sees running lanes. He identifies the passing lanes. But then he thinks too much. And he knows he does it. Ben Johnson knows he does it. Dan Campbell knows he does it. JT Barrett knows he does it. And they all get on him about it. And it's something where he's just got to get through it and got to work on making plays. I believe the phrase that he said, I don't want to misquote him, but I'm going to paraphrase him very closely, was that when the brain turns off, it just feels right for him. And you can like see it, that he's thinking too much on a couple plays. There was one today. He's running the same drill that Goff is, where they have to make up two scores in 2 minutes. And he doesn't, his first target was Maurice Alexander, playing outside. By the way, Ennis Rakestraw was on him, playing and locked him up and erased him with his press, which was very nice to see, because we haven't really seen number 15 getting the action so much there, but he did a very good job with that. So that was taken away, and then you saw Hendon thinking, and the wheels were turning, and they weren't turning fast enough. And he wound up checking the ball down to the running back. I want to say it was number 28, which is Jamar Jefferson. I need the reference guides. So a lot of guys change numbers. And, he didn't, actually, but that was something that he did on Wednesday in a similar type of situation, and Ben Johnson went apeshit on him, loud enough that all of us heard him just screaming. And Ben Johnson's not noted for being a screamer. He was pissed, and he made the same mistake today. And Ben wasn't within earshot at that point, but I can only imagine what was said for those who were. It was a frustrating time. They wound up not getting the score at all. Um, I take that back. They did. They kicked field goals. They got into field goal range, and James Turner and Michael Badgley both nailed, I believe it was a 53, 55 yarder. They were both good on it with a tailwind. So that was impressive. Good kicking today. The parenthetical aside there. But Hooker, it's a slower grind than I wanted it to be. And obviously, it's just 3 days. I'm aware of the perspective on that. But I was hoping that I would see a little bit more progress from practice to practice. Because again, this is a guy he's getting a ton of reps. They are clearly trying to get him ready to be the number 2 and to be ready to play if, by God, for some reason, Jared Goff gets injured. That's the only reason that he would be playing, but Hooker would be playing. But it was he's not where I want him to be, nor where I thought he would be, based on my college evaluation of him, where I thought he was worthy of a late first round or early second round pick. He's not there yet. That doesn't mean that he won't get there. Doesn't mean that he won't be there by training camp. He's going to work very hard. That's something that Dan Campbell stressed. He certainly has the work ethic to make it happen. But for the people who are talking about, let's trade him now for a first, like, no, that trade it ain't there, folks. He's a work in progress. It's still a very worthwhile work in progress, but there's progress that needs to happen before we get him on there. So that'll summarize the Hendon Hooker part. All right, let's move on. A couple other guys that have stood out in the days. And this is a guy, I brought him up in my Lions Wire notebook on Wednesday, and he actually got, Dan Campbell was asked about him this morning. That's Mitchell Agude, defensive end, number 50. Know the name, because he's making a real push to make this team, and he is getting reps above James Houston right now. They're rotating as the second team defensive ends, but Agude is in front of him as the reps go now. Now remember, last week Houston was working off on the side with trainers, so he might not be 100%. That could very well be it, but Agude is he looks good, man. He's powerful. Dan Campbell talked a lot about the positives that he brings. He's a very smart player. That's very clear. And I at this point, he would be on the 53-man roster if I were doing the projection. I'd probably have to do one of those pretty soon. He looks very good. There's power to speed. There's aptitude against the run defense. He can get off of a block, and I think that's a critical attribute that isn't shared by a lot of his competition at the edge position, whether it's Josh Paschal, James Houston. John Kaminsky's kind of hit and miss with that. Levi Onwuzurike, when he lines up outside, I'm going to get to Levi in a second, doesn't necessarily do a lot to get off of a block rather than to just try to blow through it. Agude has very active hands, much like Aiden Hutchinson. This guy's not blocking me. Like I'm working my ass off to try to get unblocked. It doesn't always happen. And by the way, the blocking is pretty good, even with not in pads. But Mitchell Agude is the guy that's going to be pushing. You're going to see a lot more of him. He's a guy to definitely watch as a 53-man roster sleeper to make it. And whether that's at the expense of somebody that at edge that you might think would make it or at a different position, I don't know yet. We'll see. But he certainly stands out. Who else stood out? So offensive line. All right, let me talk about it because I wrote him up on Wednesday. Giovanni Manu, number 59, fourth-round rookie. He's really green, folks. This is not a guy that I would be comfortable having him play as a rookie. everything that I have heard in the 3 days that I've been in Allen Park indicates that the Lions are very well aware of this and were when they drafted him. It's part of the plan. If you had Broderick Martin last year as a developmental rookie that they knew wasn't ready, and they were happy, just letting him try to learn and get himself right. And Dan Campbell brought up the swimming. Um, and last year, Broderick Martin needed some life rafts, and he looks better this year. Right now, Manu needs a life raft and a lifeguard. David Hasselhoff swimming out there. Pam Anderson. Pam Anderson's better than, and she's Canadian. Hey, that works. Sorry, Baywatch days. College was fun. Um, but I digress. Yeah, Manu, there's just a whole lot that needs to happen before he's even close to being ready. His technique is all over the place. His hands, his shoulders, his coordination, his footwork. It's different on just about every play. It's different when he's got a tight end lined up for him. It's different when he's got a different right guard lined up inside, or a guard lined up inside him. He played left tackle yesterday. I won't profess to watching him much today. I watched the skills today because the bigs were only at half speed or 3/4 speed. So I didn't really catch him today. But there's a lot of growth that needs to happen before he's. So if you've watched this podcast for any length of time or read my stuff at Lionswire, you'll know how I felt about Matt Nelson. I was not a fan. I would say that right now, Matt Nelson is a lot better at tackle than Giovanni Manu. That's where we're at. So I know that there's these visions that Hank Fraley is going to have him coached up and have him ready. You might want to scale that back, folks. It's not going to be from a lack of effort. It's not going to be from a lack of ability to get there. He's just so far behind. I brought it up the other day in a video that I did on another podcast with our lads. Check that one out, by the way. It was good. Good people there. But I brought up the fact that I live in Holland, Michigan, right by Hope College, and I see a lot of D3 football. And I will say his skills are commensurate with a mid-level D3 player right now. Now, athleticism freaking off the charts, man. Like it's unreal to watch him move and play. And he had a play on Wednesday where he pulled out and he only grazed his target in space, but man, watching him move, you see why the Lions were so intrigued and why other teams were as well. But it's not there yet. So think of it if you want to do it, the scaling up. He's got to get from D3 to D2 and D2 to FCS, and then FCS is probably where he is comfortable enough where they might have him active on a game day as a deep reserve that they pray that they don't have to use as a rookie. I think that's what you're looking at with him. He can certainly prove me wrong, but I'm still very bullish on him long term, but short term, you really got to scale it back. And even the biggest advocates for him in the media room are like, yeah, they're seeing it. So don't expect to see a lot of him in the regular season. Now expect to see a crap ton of him in the preseason, and it's going to be one of those where he's going to oh my God, what have we done? And then also holy crap, what have we done? That's sort of what you're going to get with him. You're going to get the spectacular and you're going to get the terrifying. And that's sort of where he's at right now. But let me go to the one of the guys who did stand out as a positive, and it's a guy that doesn't get a lot of run, and that's Netane Muti, who is playing guard and playing very well. Now, again, they're not in pads. You got to put that caveat out there. But this is a guy, from my eyes and from what I've seen, he is a better pass protector and a more instinctive run blocker than Coyote Aushika running at the same position. And it's going to be an interesting battle to see where he makes him. Moody has some experience. Came over from the Raiders, I believe. I think he's had a cup of coffee in a couple other places. So there's some experience there. 52s look pretty good. He's not the most physically impressive guy when you're looking at the offensive lineman, but he's getting the job done. And I think he's another guy that I wrote him down as a winner from the camp week. And hopefully I'm not the only one that saw that, because it can be tough when they're not in full pads and not at full speed all the time to judge the lineman. But one of the things that I tried to do today was watch them in their individual position drills with their position coaches, and his consistency with his hand placement in the drills was something that stood out to me, and his leg and foot frequency. I'm a big advocate in when you're trying to push somebody to keep your feet moving. He has very impressive foot frequency for a kind of a stocky looking guy. So hats off to. I won't take the hat off because my hair is terrible, but Donnie Mute earned some praise this week. So he's another one that I thought did very well. Let's look at who else made the notes for positives. Oh, Dory's Fountain, number 12. He's getting some reps. He and Antoine Green are basically competing for the same spot. And Dan Campbell kind of said that today, but didn't really say it. Fountain looks good. Or that was yesterday, actually. He's looked very impressive. He's big. He's not the most dynamic off the line, but once he gets moving, he presents himself as a very nice target. He runs good routes. He can catch the ball with people hanging on him. That's something that stood out, and that's not something that we've seen the Antoine Green be able to do. Roughly the same type of build, size player. And right now, again, it's early. It's June 6th. There's certainly time for that to change, but right now I would have Doris Fountain over Antoine Green. One of the many camp battles to watch. Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be involved in that as well. I think his status with the team is above that, but I'm not sure that the play has been there yet. Although he looked fine today. Made a very nice catch on a throw from Hooker that I didn't, quite frankly, expect him to catch. So it was nice. Got my first look at Carlton Davis. Physical, impressive. We're in number 23. It's taken a little bit of time. That's not who else has worn that in the past year. He's for those who are worried about his speed, he's faster than most of the guys that he covered. Nobody's faster than JMO. He ran hip to hip with Antoine Green. He ran hip to hip with DPJ. DPJ can move. So I'm not worried about the speed, not worried about the instincts. He does still have a little bit of he's one of those guys like the savvy veteran where like he gives a little jersey tug or like just gets the foot like just in front a little bit. And I don't want to show you the video aids, but he's very disruptive with his presence in ways that might be illegal and might not be illegal. And he's very crafty at that. And I appreciate that very much because that's something that we wanted to see from Cam Sutton, who's now back with the Steelers. Good luck, Pittsburgh. And we didn't see that nearly enough from Cam Sutton last year. Maybe it was because he wasn't healthy. I don't know. Whatever. That chapter's closed. I'd rather not reopen that book at any point. But he's better coming in than what Sutton was in coverage, certainly. Let's talk about the safeties a little bit. Brandon Joseph got some love from Campbell. I'm going to say that I didn't see it. So I like my safeties to be able to do multiple things. Kirby Joseph is getting there. Ifeatu Melifonwu is getting there. If he certainly showed at the end of last year that he's great moving forward, he's still a work in progress in coverage. He's got some ability. He showed if the play's in front of him, he's going to blow it up. I like that. Joseph, it seems like he's guessing a little bit, and it also seems like he's having trouble understanding his speed versus the speed of the ball to the receiver and where the receiver is going to be. Now, again, some of that's inexperience. He didn't play as a rookie, undrafted free agent coming out of Notre Dame. For that, he was at Northwestern. He's starting. He's getting a ton of reps. He is getting better, but I'm still not super confident in his game. And I say that I generally liked him coming out of college too, but I need to see a little bit more before I'm comfortable with him being your top reserve safety. Obviously, with Branch and Joseph not playing, it grows things up. And I will say the undrafted rookies at safety did not engender much confidence for me or the people that I was standing with, including, I will add, congratulations to Colton Pouncey for being the PFWA Rising Star, I believe it's Therese Paler award. And I voted for him for it. He deserves it. He won it. We had a nice little ceremony for him Wednesday in the media room after practice. He's a great talent. He's got great eyes for football. He also is a wonderful writer and a good dude. And I'm very proud to call him a colleague. So congratulations to you, Colton. Good job. On that topic, so when I'm in Allen Park, I sit in the front row. I sit in the chair that was the slouching chair back in the Matt Patricia days. When that person left, and he doesn't even cover another team anymore, I took that over, and that seat happens to be next to Mike O'Hara. And when I'm there, Mike O'Hara is to my left, and Mike retired. His last day is actually Monday. Today was technically the last practice that he covered. He has been covering the Lions for over 50 years. He is a wonderful guy. They had a nice ceremony for him. Dan said some nice things. Sheila Hamp came in. Rod Wood came in. They congratulated him. Mike stood up and spoke in the way that only Mike can. It was funny. It was touching. It was very Mike O'Hara. And I will just say I'm much better for knowing Mike and from learning from Mike and just, trying to observe through osmosis of how good he is and the things that he knows and his recall on things and his angle in questioning. Not just like when he questions players, he doesn't really actually talk to the players very much anymore, but he talks to coaches and he talks to other people in the media, and he has a way about him that coaxes information that others, including myself, don't get or don't see. Maybe it's the respect that we all pay Mike, and he's earned that. But so, Mike, thank you very much for everything that you've done for me and for the Lions and for all the fans. He will still be doing his podcast with Ken Brown. Ken made that very clear today. I've got to know Ken a little bit. That's a great time. So keep checking him out. He will be called semi-retired. But yeah, thank you, Mike O'Hara, for everything that you've done from me, all the rest of the Lions media, and we told you that today to your face, but also all the fans out there. I hope you cherished Mike and all the time that you got with him, because he's a damn good one, folks. Okay, last little bit here. If you follow my Lions Wire stuff, you know I do a thing called Quick Hits at the end of most of my practice column write-ups, whatever, summaries, game write-ups, and everything. I'll go through a few of those right now. And these are sort of rapid fire, and they're just done, excuse me, very matter-of-factly. Watch Marcus Davenport today. He is here. He's wearing number 92. He was working off with trainers. He was very close to full speed. I expect him to be ready for training camp. Dan Campbell does too. The only player that Dan Campbell talked about that's currently injured that he doesn't expect to be ready or very close to being ready at the beginning of training camp is DJ Reader, who is coming off of a torn quad. He tore that in week 15. So it was like the middle of December. It's a 6 to 9 month injury. He's had one before, so he knows how to get it back. He's not a guy that needs a lot of reps to do what he does well, so I'm not super concerned about it, but it is something to take note of. But one of the players that Dan was asked about was Emmanuel Mosley, who's not here, or I haven't seen him. He might have been there, not in uniform or anything. I didn't notice him. But it sounds like he expects him to be ready to roll, which would be great, adding to the competitive fire and brouhaha that's going to go on in camp at cornerback, where we have an interesting amount of depth this year, and it's going to be one of those where people are going to be winning jobs rather than just not losing them, and I think that's sort of one of the big reasons why I don't get super critical on Aaron Glenn and his defensive coverage performances. I've seen the players that he's had to work with, and it's kind of been like he's been choosing the lesser of evils a lot. Not this year. He's got talent this year. Now, that means he needs to produce more as a coach. He's aware of that too. Um, yeah, but the talent, the overall talent level, not just with Terrion Arnold, but like Ennis Rakestraw, Amik Robertson coming in, Carlton Davis coming in. If Mosley can give you anything, Kindle Vildor, I know people don't want to hear it. Guy has some ability. He really does. We're all going to remember him for his worst play, unfortunately, but he hasn't looked bad in camp. He just hasn't. So uh, Khalil Dorsey, before he got injured on Wednesday. By the way, good update from Dan Campbell on his prognosis. He wasn't out at practice today, but it sounded like it wasn't as severe as what it looked like because it did not look good when it happened. He kind of got crossed up by Tom Kennedy on a jerk route and didn't look good. But thankfully, we're as somebody, and I want to say it was Jeremy Reisman said it. Remember last year when C.J. Gardner-Johnson injured his knee in camp, and we're all like, "Oh my God!" Like he left on a cart, and we're like, "Oh, the sky has fallen." And then he was out there like a week later. That's sort of the way that it felt like was described to us today as how Khalil Dorsey will be, and he's played well. He had pick sixes 2 days in a row. He had one on Tuesday. I wasn't there, and he had one on Wednesday where he basically ran the route and Hooker threw it right to him, off to the races. Caught it on the dead sprint and went. And he's played well. He's also played well on special teams. So it's going to be a fun competition. And again, I'll frame it this way: instead of guys not instead of guys getting jobs by not being bad. You're going to have to be good this year to make it into this secondary. Certainly a cornerback, anyway. So that's positive. Um, into every into every scene, a little rain must fall. There's a couple guys that have not impressed. James Mitchell comes to mind. As one other person in the media who shall remain nameless today said, he is the slowest freaking tight end I've seen since Michael Roberts, and he might be slower than that. That is a very close to approximate quote, accurate quote from a person who covered the team then and is still covering the team now. Aside from the fact that he threw a ball today, that if you've ever seen a non-athlete like try to throw, um, uh, like when the guys are like shooting the basketball like that, um, and they flip, and then a basketball movie. That's what it looked like when James Mitchell threw a pass today. It's not going well for him. Parker Hesse is definitely more skilled than him right at this point. That's a guy that probably should be on your radar a little bit more. I think just my rankings from what I've seen, James Mitchell would be at the bottom of the tight end group right now. Now he's not playing that way. He's getting reps between the second and third team, and actually got a couple first team reps as well. But he's not keeping that if there's any justice to how we've seen them play, which is disappointing. But you're not gonna hit on them all. Another one who has not necessarily stood out super well is Jamar Jefferson. And one of the things that you have to do when you can't break tackles because they're not allowed to tackle is you got to catch the ball and run really good routes. And I don't want to say he's bad at it, but he's not as good at it as the guys that he's competing with, which are Zonovan Knight, Jake Funk, Craig Reynolds probably gets lumped in that. Sione Vaki. Vaki, by the way, is a really good receiver. You're going to see some things with him. We're not allowed to talk about it. I know people have asked about it. We are not allowed to show any video at all from camp. Otherwise, we will get our credentials yanked. They monitor that very closely, and we take it seriously. If you want to see video, you got to check out the Lions official thing. That's sort of what they're doing. It is what it is. It's not unusual. I had that same problem, or not, it's not a problem. I shouldn't call it a problem. Scratch that. I had the same situation when I covered the Browns when John Dorsey was their GM there. We were not allowed to take live video of actual reps other than when they're just doing individual drills. And he has either brought that with him to Detroit or they've incorporated it in spite of the fact that he's there. And that's not going to change. So that's why you're not seeing clips. That's why you're not getting live tweeting of practices. We are not. We It's very strictly monitored. Let's put it that way. And by and large, we don't have a problem with it. As media, that's the rules of the job. You got to do what you got to do. So that's that's why you're not seeing a lot of that live action updating the way that we used to be able to do. Times have changed, and the team's better, and we'll ride with that. Um, one last last thing. I just want to thank all y'all. Yesterday, Wednesday, was my 6th year of running Lions Wire. I've been doing the Detroit Lions podcast with Chris and Ash and everybody for a long time. Case, actually, I co-hosted with Case a few times back in the day, and it's been about the same amount of time. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the kind words, for the constructive criticism, which is good, for the comments, for the support, for putting up with my heavy metal diversions. It means a lot to me. I take this job very seriously. It's something that I worked very hard to get to. It wasn't necessarily an easy path to get here. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the support over the time. This is a fantastic team to cover. It's already right there with my favorite teams to cover, and we aren't even in the training camp yet. I feel very bullish about where this organization is heading. Everybody else feels that way too. I want to give a quick thanks to everybody else in the Lions media for making me feel welcome and helping me out when I do have to work remotely. Y'all are great with it, and I appreciate that very much. I will be over in Allen Park a lot more this year. Some recent developments have allowed that to happen, so that's good. And I probably won't see me much until training camp, but until then, thanks and go Lions.